Senator Daines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank both the nominees for coming up here today. Mr. Vitello, it is great to see you as well again.
Appreciate that.
For over 3 decades, you have served our country. You've enforced the rule of law. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your continued desire to protect our country in this incredibly important role. I believe you have the leadership and experience necessary to be most effective in this position. ICE is one of our country's most critical security measures and is essential in protecting its citizens. As you mentioned, ICE seized nearly 900,000 pounds of narcotics, rescued more than 850 children who were victims of sexual exploitation, and arrested 11,000 known or suspected gang members, and that was in FY18. The work that ICE does in protecting American security and upholding the rule of law cannot be overstated. The fact that some members of Congress have called for the abolishment of ICE is simply outrageous. It is long past due that we confirm you. Mr. Vitello, our country is facing an opioid crisis. But let me tell you something. In Montana, we are facing a meth epidemic. I just literally came from a meeting with some individuals in Montana who deal with our foster care system. The numbers in our foster care system have tripled, according to this group, most recently as a direct result of meth. The vast majority of this devastating drug comes from Mexico. The meth of old was homegrown with meth labs. The meth today is coming via cartels, as you know, coming up through Mexico, and it's destroying our communities in Montana. It's destroying families. These effects are very personal. While ICE Homeland Security investigations seized 80 pounds of meth in FY18, families and communities are suffering. They're being destroyed. My question is, how will you ensure that rural states like Montana remain a top priority for ICE? And do you have the necessary resources to control the meth epidemic that we're seeing right now in Montana?
Well, as an operator, I'll always tell you we need more resources. But I appreciate that. I appreciate your kind words as well. ICE seized about 60,000 pounds of methamphetamine last year with a value of about $475 million. In your environment on the northern border, our best resources in the HSI context is the Border Enforcement Security teams. And so we have a number of those along the northern border working directly with partners and colleagues in Canada, and then our state and local and tribal partners as well. So providing task force funding, overtime for state and locals, working complex pathways identification, right? How are these things coming into the country from Mexico? How are they reaching markets in the U.S.? And then ICE has a wonderful capability that I'm very impressed with on the dark web marketplace. A lot of these things now are being imported, either across the border or imported, but people start that search for these goods online in the dark web, and ICE and HSI has a great capability to combat the transactional nature of that, but then also to follow the money and the pathways of this illicit methamphetamine into the United States.